I am the Reverend Naomi King, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about Psalm 26. Sometimes that's called the I Will Bless the Lord Psalm. In this one, it might sound very familiar as we're facing troubles and trials. That's a fairly common state of being in these songs, these psalms of worship. Is they're either frequently full of praise and things are great and we're so happy and thank you and awe and wonder and reverence, and other times they're really songs and prayers of help. Please help. Please help. I'm not deserving of this garbage that's going on. Please help. Now, this idea of deserving garbage is a long interpretive history of trials and troubles and diseases, particularly, as somehow being divine retribution and punishment. I don't believe that they are. I also don't think that we can really truly know that. They are or they aren't. There are all kinds of ascriptions in biblical texts that say these trials came about because of God, or this disease or this pestilence came about because of God. And if you understand God as the ground of all being, okay. For many people, that is a real struggle to hold that kind of God where there's so much pain and suffering, and a God of protection and care and generosity and love in the same. Now, we're capable of complicated thoughts, so we can do both. But at the same time, I'm going to say, yes, viruses are part of creation. And pandemic is largely a creation of human beings and our political responses as we approach and deal with the spread of disease, and whether we contain that spread or whether we feed it. So most of the suffering is caused not just by a virus that's doing what viruses do to survive, but by people. With that in mind, let's listen a little bit to the 26th Psalm. As with the other Psalms that I will talk about, I may use language for the Holy One that you're not familiar with, or I might make a translation that you're not familiar with. Let's begin. Vindicate me, beloved, O Holy One, for I have lived with integrity, and I have trusted in life itself without wavering. Prove me, beloved, and try me. Test my heart and my mind, for your steadfast love is before my eyes, and I live faithfully. So this is a challenge, and an appeal in a court of life. It's an appeal that I will be judged fairly, and I will be judged and found not wanting. And so the speaker goes on to say, I don't sit with people who tell lies, and I don't consort with hypocrites. I hate the assembly of evildoers, and I do not hang out with the wicked. So it's a protestation of innocence. Chances are, even as much as we might try to keep our lives and carefully, separate from folks who are doing real bad stuff in the world, that we'll still occasionally tell a lie or know somebody who does. We still might sometimes be a hypocrite or know somebody who is that we love dearly. And if we are truly caring for one another, I'm not sure how we actually avoid the assembly of evildoers or hanging out with people who've done bad things. If we have to love one another and care for one another, no exceptions, it seems to me like that's actually a distancing that's both not desirable and isn't pursuing our sense of what our holy relationships and obligations are. pandemic response folks like this part of the verse. I wash my hands in innocence. So yes, it's biblical. Wash your hands in innocence and traverse around your altar, O Holy One. So this is referencing a practice and a time that we don't have accessible to us. There aren't these altars scattered across the holy landscape, and there is no single temple life like there used to be when these were written. And so we're not going to be traveling that way. So how do we understand that? And one of the ways to understand that is to relate to the sacredness of our life every day. So we wash our hands with innocence. We're not trying to transmit things. We're trying to care for this creation that we have, for this life that we're given, for these blessings, and to turn and bless others. And then the psalmist says, proclaiming thanksgiving aloud and telling all of your wondrous deeds. So this is where the blessings come. I am so thankful. I am so thankful. And let me tell you why I am so thankful. And so can you do that in the middle of anxiety and stress and fear? When we sit back and start to name reasons for ourselves to be grateful, we might be surprised. At first, it can be really, really difficult to do a gratitude practice in the middle of anger or fear because it's asking us to stop and shift emotional practice in our bodies, our whole way of being, our breathing, our muscle tension. It all has to stop because we're very relaxed when we're appreciative, because we're breathing differently when we're appreciative. So it's worth taking that time and disconnecting from the anxiety of the news cycle and our worries about our personal health that are going to be fed by, oh, I just coughed. Is that an allergy, or is that the dry cough of the coronavirus that we're concerned about? We need to be able to stop, notice, pay attention. You'll hear that over and over again in what I'm saying. And that has to do with, this is a core spiritual practice, to stop and pay attention to what is good and what is generous and what is merciful. And that's essentially where the psalmist ends this song, this prayer. O Holy One, I love the habitation of your house and the place where your glory dwells. Do not sweep away my soul with sinners, nor my life with bloodthirsty people, in whose hands are evil devices, and whose right hands are full of bribes. This recognizes both wonder and glory, and also that people do bad things. You know, there's hoarding, and there's people trying to profiteer in this situation, and we recognize that, and we still come back and return ourselves to the sense of the holy. But as for me, I will live in my integrity. Redeem me and be gracious to me. My being rests on level ground. In the great assembly, I will bless the Lord. And so, if we're thinking about how we live these lives of integrity, that's the part we can control. Are we living with integrity, with compassion, with graciousness, with kindness to strangers as well as to those we know and trust? Are we aware of the people who are doing wrong and still trying to find a way to care and to not exclude them from our networks of being? We need to be able to hold them accountable and stop the wrongdoing, and also not paint them outside of the edges of what it is to be a human being. So that we are resting on this level ground, this ground of compassion, this ground of connection, this ground of wonder and awe and reverence, so that we can join the great assembly and bless the wonder and being of the all in all. May you have peace, and may you be well.